Hi, Janet.
Hi, Mark.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well.
Fantastic. Where are you beaming in from today?
I live in Florida, and our program is in California.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
But I have worked remotely for forever, but now it's become a thing.
Isn't that funny? The the thing that used to be sort of your maybe signature move is now kind of everybody's norm.
More like signature annoyance for our foundation, and now everybody is doing it. So, where are you?
Understandable. I'm based in Seattle. Yeah, West Coast. It's just starting to get light out this morning.
Oh yeah, this is early.
Hey, Richard.
Hi, Richard.
No sound from you, sir. Looks like you're muted.
It's okay. This is why they have us do this 5 minutes early.
That's right. We've got a few minutes to work out all the bugs.
There it is.
Hi.
All right. We're
So
on.
this is Richard. I'm speaking from Ghana, West
Oh,
Africa.
Wow.
Richard,
Hello, Richard.
welcome.
Thank you.
What time is it in Ghana?
It's 3 o'clock.
In the afternoon, hopefully.
Come again?
In the afternoon, PM?
Yes,
Oh,
in
good.
the afternoon.
Oh, good.
Yes, quite interesting.
Oh, good. Well, I are we waiting on one more?
I think the three of us are the only speakers.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. All right. Um, well, I see the top of the hour. I see that we are recording. I see that I believe we have 6 folks um, attending with us, if I'm reading that correctly at the top of our screen. Um, and would love to get us started. What do you guys think?
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
let's do it.
All right. Um, well, so I believe our topic here today is Earth hacking, creating a more sustainable planet through technology. Um, I am Janet Mata, and I'm here on behalf of Terra.do, which I'm happy to talk more about as we get started. Um, and our goal here is to discuss initiatives and programs that are leveraging technology to solve some of the planet's greatest problems. Certainly for me, that's climate change, and I'm hoping we'll also be able to talk about other aspects of sustainability as well. And it's just an absolute pleasure to be at the Blocks in Tech conference today and contribute to kind of sharing the gospel of planetary preservation, as it were, through technology. So maybe we do a round of introductions. What do you think? Okay.
Perfect. You want to go, Richard?
Okay, so thank you very much. So my name is Richard Hammond, and I am a senior technical advisor as well as the country lead advisor for Ghana and Liberia for the Power Africa Upgrade Program. Specifically for the Power Africa Upgrade Program have its objective of achieving quite substantial support in terms of climate change. and its objective is basically to grow the number of electrified communities, and it seeks to achieve 30,000 megawatts of newly generated power using renewables. And the interesting part of it is that it plays a very vital role in contributing to mitigating climate change. So it's a USAID funded program, and there are basically some defined work stream that which includes ensuring business performance, access to finance support, policy and regulatory support, and ensuring that there is a dissemination of appropriate information, and also ensuring that the involvement of women, and also looking at various technologies that has to do with supporting agriculture, cooling solution, and all that. So that's that a short one for me for the work that I do with them. And as well as I'm also a mentor at Terrado as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So I'm Mark Schroep. I work with something called Schmidt Marine Technology Partners, which is part of the Schmidt Family Foundation. That is all based in California, but I am in Florida. And the overarching goal for our program is to fund the development of technologies that solve ocean problems. And we work in pretty broad categories with things like increasing sustainable fishing, habitat restoration, so things like kelp and coral restoration. We're also interested in research tools that are needed to do better work and better conservation in the ocean. And I always forget one or the other of them. The fourth is reducing ocean pollution. And so we work with all kinds of groups. We work with groups around the world. We don't have a regional focus. We have an ocean focus, and there's ocean everywhere, pretty much. And we work with nonprofits. We work with academic folks that are developing technologies that they may want to spin out. And then, of course, for-profits as well. And we're generally looking at things that are on some kind of a path to commercialization, with the idea that that is the best way, not always, but at times that's the best way to get something out, to get a tool out or a technology out that's needed to solve a problem. Because if it's widely available, then obviously it can be more widely applied. So we came into all this with some basic premises. I won't go into too much detail, but in general, we're trying to provide long-term funding, in part because we've recognized that it's just really hard to get support for this kind of work. And we also do as much as we can to try to provide support beyond funds. So we try to build our network of business mentors and business advisors and lawyers and all kinds of people that are needed to help a small endeavor or business or whatever kind of organization get going. So we try to provide all of that as well. And one thing I wanted to mention, because I'll forget otherwise, if you're interested in this kind of stuff at all, it's not all tech focused, but we have an oceans job board at our website that you can go to for Schmidt Marine. So that can be my quick intro.
Love it. And then I'll do the similar kind of quick intro, and then maybe I have some questions top of mind. Certainly just based on what I've heard from both of you, and happy to kind of keep this as a really open discussion. I would encourage anybody kind of in our session to pop in with questions as well, put them in the chat. Let us know what you would like to hear about from us in addition to our introductions. As I said, my name is Janet Mata, and I am the head of careers at Terra.do. Terra.do is a climate change education company. So we run courses related to climate change designed to get 100 million people working on the climate crisis by 2030. So we have this incredibly ambitious goal. To do that, we need really everyone across all disciplines, across all communities, across the world, helping us solve this problem. And one of the most important ways that we've started to look at solving climate change is through technology, very clearly. So to support that, TerraDo has a number of offerings where we support technological development on climate change. So the first is our course Learning for Action. That is a course designed to give you a complete overview of both the climate challenges and existing climate solutions that are in play. So learning a ton about both the dire situation that exists worldwide, but also some of the most exciting and promising technologies that exist to help solve that, as a place to get started and try to find your way forward in climate. The second course that we run that's super applicable to this mission is our Climate Change for Software Developers course. So that's one that I'm thinking and hoping would be of interest to, particularly to the Blacks in Tech community, but also, you know, a variety of other folks who might want to transition into working in software development for climate change. And that course is really geared specifically toward applications of software development for climate. The third thing that I love to talk about that's pretty exciting at Terra.do is called the Terra Studio program. And that is a startup incubator for climate tech startups. So most often the participants in Terra Studio come out of one of our courses pretty fired up about starting a business that applies technology to solving climate change. And Terra provides mentorship and support and some funding to get those business ideas off the ground. And then the last thing that I really like to mention is just the incredible and inspiring ways that the people who come through our program go on to do work in climate. So some really interesting and fascinating career changes have happened as a result of people participating in Terra.do courses under mentorship of people like Richard, but also an incredibly large list of over 200 people who are there to support Terra fellows and students. So I'm starting to sound a little bit like I'm pitching you on Terra courses. I hope everybody takes a Terra course, but that is not the only reason I'm here. I'm really here to kind of share a little bit about there are lots of kind of meta ways to look at making a difference on climate using technology. Certainly one of those is an operator. The mission that we have is around education and helping move people into climate change roles. And excited to kind of answer more questions about that or talk more about that as needed. And then my role as head of careers is really to help people find great jobs. So connecting really interesting and impactful companies on climate with people who are talented and interested in doing the work in that space. So I have a couple questions for you all, if you're open to it. Richard, your work is something I don't know very much about, and I'm really, really curious to learn more about maybe the state of climate technology or electrification in Ghana in particular, and wondering if you want to talk a little bit more about kind of what that looks like, and then maybe go a little bit deeper into some of the solutions that you're implementing there.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeanette. When it comes to climate change technology and how countries within West Africa like Ghana has actually advanced, I'll say that for Ghana is more like a leader within West Africa when it comes to grid access. We are basically estimated to have about 85% grid access. So there's a lot of effort, a lot of activities by the government to ensure that it achieves its sustainable development goals of providing energy access for everybody. Currently, we have about 55 solar companies registered and regulated by the Energy Commission, providing various solutions. So we are talking about decentralized solar energy solutions. We are talking about standalone solar solutions. We are talking about mini grid development. And now there's a lot of talk on developing irrigation solutions. Yes, it's been around for quite some time, but it's now catching up. And now people are getting to appreciate. There are various programs that are coming up, like one of our sister program called Innovation Lab for Smallholder Farmers. What it does is that it provides grant funding to selected organizations, basically private sector organizations, to provide extension service. So it's not just selling technology to smallholder farmers, but also providing training for them to kind of understand the essence of all year round farming. So now we are looking at how cocoa is usually seasonal. So there's currently a discussion ongoing, which I'm part of, to provide support to cocoa farmers to farm year round and providing them with extension services and educating them to appreciate the essence of making use of these technologies, not just focusing on just irrigation solutions, but also as they plant other crops like tomato, we have cooling solutions. So we educate them on what the necessity of having cooling solutions to preserve this tomato so that they can sell it all season round. So there have been instances whereby with communities within the northern part of Ghana, where women that are farmers, quite a number of women farming tomato, had to throw away tomatoes because they are not able to preserve them. So this is what we are doing to create a little more awareness, to encourage them, and also look at not just looking at the sales, but we are looking at how can it be affordable for them because they have small income. So how can we spread those technologies over a period of time, say 1 year to 2 years? So we have selected companies that have integrated. There's something called pay as you go. Pay as you go is where there is a software company integrates payment solutions onto these technologies like solar home system, decentralized solar system, irrigation pumps, and it allows these farmers to pay in bits. So they don't pay outright, they just pay in bits over a period of 2 years.
It sounds like your organization or your awareness of kind of climate tech in Ghana really spans a pretty diverse range of solutions, from electrification and solar, but also water and farming as well. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
Seems very holistic. Yes. What are some of the challenges that, maybe beyond the obvious, but what are some of the challenges that you're facing, or maybe what are some of the ways that technology is uniquely positioned to help solve some of those challenges? Do you want to talk more on the technology side?
Okay. So on the technology side, technology is changing over time. So when you compare solar home systems that was 5 years ago, it's transformed. Now there is softwares that you are able to monitor the usage of your battery, how it's being used. You are able to so we have various solutions, something like fridges, that is DC fridges, televisions that is connected to the system. About 5 years to 10 years ago, those solutions were not around. But now the solar companies that we support is not just selling the lights, but also adding various technology like fans. And now we are seeing clippers for barbering, for SMEs. Now manufacturers are developing solutions for digital television, just to provide that solution for customers, just so that they'll be able to meet their needs, not just focusing on providing just the light, but also other technologies as well. So the technology is expanding, because when it comes to mitigation of climate change, energy efficiency plays a very vital role. So we have technology companies now integrating LED lights into their solutions, integrating energy efficient appliances into their operations. And the nice part of it is that because now there's an integration with mobile networks, they are able to identify customers' location. They are able to gather data of customers that are not within the financial system. So solving so many problems, and they are able to identify customers that are paying, that they can benefit on other products such as appliances, solutions that come up. Now we have companies providing telecom technologies, that is remote telecom technologies. So if a normal MNO is not going to such communities, those small companies are providing big stations where they are able to provide services to communities that are very rural and not close to the grid. So that's what is happening. It's quite interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for shedding more light on that. Mark, do you want to talk a little bit more? Do you want to give us a deep dive into some of the problems that your organization is solving and maybe some of the technologies brought to bear on that?
Sure. So yeah, I was thinking about a few things as you all have been talking. One is that we haven't set it apart as a specific focus area, but we have been looking more and more at climate change related issues. Some of the things that we deal with have always been sort of part of that umbrella. A lot of the issues with corals and kelp and all sorts of other ocean problems tie directly into climate change. But we've also been working with different groups. There's a group I would recommend to anybody that's interested in this stuff in the oceans and also interested in tech. There's a group called Ocean Visions that we've provided a little bit of support to, but they are taking a really interesting approach to climate issues. So they started from the basic idea. Anybody that has followed these things in the ocean knows that there have been some, let's say, interesting ideas for how you might be able to address climate change in the ocean. Things like iron fertilization, and one of the problems that most of those solutions shared was that they didn't do enough of the basic research. So you would have people that would start with the idea and then go out and, for instance, try and sell carbon credits for something where they don't even know really what's happening with the carbon. So there's a whole series of those kinds of things. So what Ocean Visions has done is they've created a really impressive consortium of some great marine research and other related institutes that are working together. And what they're doing is looking at different ways that the ocean could be used for negative emissions. So ways in the ocean that you could increase removal of carbon dioxide. But rather than just jump in and create companies or something like that, they're working on the foundational research, and they get all these people together to say, what do we need in order to figure out if this is a good idea, rather than just jumping in and saying, yeah, this is definitely a good idea, let's do it and go crazy. What do we need to do to make sure it's a good idea? And so then they create these roadmaps for the kind of technologies that need to be developed, the kind of research that needs to be done to underlay those technologies, things like that. So that's been a really interesting thing. But we fund around 40 projects right now, and totally we've funded about 60 projects. So it's things that are all over the place. And one of the other things I wanted to mention, just for the group here, is that our proposals are open. So we want to have as many people have access to us as possible. Well, I mean, I suppose eventually it would become too many people for us to process, but it's not there yet. And so we do kind of rolling reviews of proposals, and anybody that's into this kind of thing, and I realize it's probably a small subset that's on Ocean Things, but it's at our at the website. The proposals are open, and it's a really simple process to start it. It's just a couple of paragraphs about what you're working on, and then we go from there. But anybody can go do that.
Fantastic. So yeah, it sounds like the the impact there is really through funding great projects and tech solutions really that maybe a little bit new or a little bit innovative, but specifically try to focus on that research side.
Yeah, and I joke, we can't build anything ourselves. Actually, one of us on the team probably could build things. I can't build things myself. We find the good people that can build things well and try to help them out.
I just want to find out from Mark. Mark, I know that you've talked a lot about ocean-related support, climate change support. Does the climate change support you're providing cuts across just the ocean, or you look at other solutions like energy efficiency and all that? So if organizations have concept notes related to these areas, are you able to look into that?
We only work on things that are ocean directly tied to the ocean. The only exception, so not on energy. With pollution issues, we deal with things that are on land, and all the way up to farmers, in fact, because as you probably know, I mean, one of the big issues in the ocean is what comes off of the land, and that includes runoff from fertilizer. So we have funded some things like on the biochar side. In fact, one group that has done much or most of their testing in Kenya with small biochar systems. So, but not on energy efficiency. It's only energy or things more directly tied to the ocean, happening in the ocean.
Okay, so there's been a lot of work surrounding climate adaptation. And I want to find out, in terms of climate adaptation, that has to do with coral reefs and high sea levels. What kind of work have you been able to do so far, and how has been the in terms of challenges with individuals, health related, and also government policies that are supporting these initiatives?
Government policies makes me think of another point that I thought I would make in the tech side, and that is it's sort of one of the starting points for us for all of these things. With a lot of the issues that we're trying to have a positive impact, or where we're trying to have a positive impact, there's only certain places that tech offers the solutions, right? So there's, and you have to separate that out, because so many times it's a policy issue, it's human behavior, and unfortunately we don't know how to fix any of that. And legally, actually, on the government side, so that was what made me think of it when you mentioned government, we actually are not allowed to do anything on the government side, on the advocacy side, policy, or to try and do any of that. So we strictly are on the technology side. Reefs are really challenging because, well, for a variety of reasons, they're hit with everything. In addition to climate change, there's overfishing, there's nutrient pollution issues, and everything else. But a few of the things that we do, one, we work with a good example is a guy named Dave Vaughn, who has an organization called Plant a Million Corals. So people have been working to replant corals in areas that are damaged, which now is sadly almost everywhere. But it's been at really small scales, and it's been really hard to imagine how you would restore a large reef area. But what they found really by accident was that if you grow coral pieces, like in a on land, a farming facility for corals, if you grow them in the right proximity, they grow 25 or 30 times faster than normal. It's essentially the equivalent of a wound. It's kind of a chemistry, and it acts like it's fixing a wound. And just like on a human, where your skin grows a lot faster if you've got a wound to heal over. So they grow really fast. So it's like 30 times faster. So you can grow and plant out 30 times more coral. It's still a big challenge. We do address a lot of, like I said, things like nutrient pollution, the things that cause algae overgrowth and all of that. So we're dealing with those. We've got a variety of folks that work in those ways. But unfortunately, on the temperature side, and really, there's a few exceptions on the ocean acidification side. Those are in the category. You can't come in with a technology. Actually, people have tried in some strange ways, but for the most part, that's under the category of policy and behavior that we can't quite fix globally as much as we would like to. So that's a couple of the things that we're working on.
Yeah. And I have another question for Janet. What are your thoughts in terms of awareness, that is education, and because when you look at the chart in terms of the amount of fossil fuel that is still being used, is still on a higher side, and in order for us to migrate, there's a need for a lot of awareness creation. So which means that platforms that are providing education need to do more. What are your thoughts on what can be done? Because one, it's not just the educated that need to play part, but we have people within the rural off-grid communities that do not really understand some of these solutions. What are your thoughts on what needs to be done, and how can organizations, individuals play a role in this?
Oh, I love that question, Richard. And I could get on my soapbox for the next 30 minutes and talk about all the different ways that I think we need to change the way we kind of talk about these challenges and help people be well positioned to solve them. The first place that I will start is certainly grounding the nature of the problem in the ways that it affects everyday people. Is one thing that I think we need to do more of. And I have maybe an interesting parallel to this, but kind of the ways in which we saw LGBTQ rights change and awareness around LGBTQ issues, certainly in this country and also globally, that really started to shift when awareness was really built about how LGBTQ equality and issues and concerns and justice really affects you as an individual and someone you love. And I think a similar parallel in terms of education and awareness could be drawn to this problem of climate and climate justice around. This isn't just an abstract, we need to be able to communicate that this isn't just an abstract issue. It's this big, huge, unwieldy problem. It's about the air. It's something you can't see. Really bringing it down to kind of really an earth level around, this is something that's affecting you and me and the people you love and the people in your community and the people and the spaces that you care about. So I think that's the first thing is we could do a better job around expressing the climate crisis as a very local and personal crisis for people. And I think that if we can do that, it becomes a little bit easier to understand and certainly fuels a little bit more desire to do something about it on a personal level. The second piece that I think is really important is, and this is something that I would say was an issue in my own journey around kind of climate awareness and climate change, is helping people understand that there are really interesting and exciting solutions and opportunities happening on climate. Because one of the things that I think is problematic about a really big issue like this is it's very easy to get depressed and overwhelmed and anxious and to sit in that psychological space of, well, it's such a big problem. Is there anything that I can even really do about it? Why, who cares, right? Like, why even try? We're doomed. One of the things we talk a lot about at Terra is kind of managing your own psychology and your own anxiety and sense of kind of depression around the issue or the emotional impact of the issue so that you can still take action. And one of the things I think is quite effective at that is helping people see the exciting stuff being done. and there's a way for you to get involved both in your personal space. I can shift my natural gas in my house to be electric. I can drive less. I can, whatever it might be. But also I can go get a job. There are amazing, interesting companies. All are hiring. They're all looking for technologists. Like, there are things that I can do with my professional time that are going to help solve this problem. And there are other people around me working on that problem, which helps me kind of stay energized and stay committed to solving it. But then that leads into my third and last point, and then I'll stop soapboxing. But that's about access to education, right? So, this goes into a problem very familiar for Blacks in Tech as an organization, but, to the communities that are directly affected by climate change and the individuals directly affected, also, we want them to be more part of the solutions on climate change. We know that communities of color, communities of economic disadvantage are disproportionately affected and less proportionately represented in the organizations that are working to solve climate change. And we need to be able to shift that. And I personally think that comes, and there's a lot to that, but there's the biggest one is access to education and just making sure that we're providing opportunities for people in the communities affected by climate change to see the problem, see the solution, and then have access to be able to get the skills to build the solutions that are going to most affect their communities.
That's great. That's great. And I feel that, it's first of all, if we are able to understand how much we are basically emitting ourselves, then I know that each individual is emitting about 3 to 18 tons of fossil fuel. So what contribution as you getting to understand that this how much you are emitting, and what can you do to be able to reduce the usage of fossil fuel. And it's quite interesting, the number of technologies that are being developed, looking at clean tech technologies such as solar home systems, standalone solar, plug and play. During the COVID-19 lockdown, we had one company who was providing solar technology solution just to plug your laptop and work from home. It's quite interesting how and before then, most of the companies were selling technology solutions that would power your home, not small 2 lights or 3 lights, but now the technology companies were faster. So manufacturers started producing solutions that you could use in your home to power your laptop and use it. And we had one company we were supporting who had purchases from an organization for their staff members. They bought 100 pieces of those solutions. So it's quite interesting how changes within our environment is impacting development of solutions. And now, just about 2 weeks ago in Ghana, there was there's a program that is being it's ongoing and being launched by the Energy Commission of Ghana. That is e-mobility. So currently have about 3 companies that are providing e-mobility solutions in Ghana. But sometimes one of the key things is will people be able to afford? And so that's where some of our programs come in, like the Power of Coverage program, is to identify funding opportunities for some of these organizations that have technology solutions, but customers cannot afford. So there's a lot of work going on with banks, financial institutions to be part of the system to ensure that one, they have adequate funding. So we are connecting them to funding sources to be able to access those funding to on-lend to customers and businesses that are interested to migrate to a more resilient solution, a sustainable solution that will reduce the emission of fossil fuel.
That's really exciting. I mean, I think it's important to attack it from all prongs, right? Like the
Yeah.
affordability, the access, those are
Yeah.
all, and then the technology just being there to begin with. Those are
Exactly.
all,
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
that's really
Mark,
great.
to what extent, in terms of, to what extent has it been that the organization is involved in research and development to ensure identify opportunities, and also identify new solutions to solve climate change?
To what extent? So we have not had that as a primary focus area. As I mentioned before, we've been exploring some of that more recently through collaboration and working with Ocean Visions, that organization that I talked about. But we have not, other than we have always focused on some of the downstream issues like the reefs
Okay.
and things. We have not focused on the more direct things. So there's kind of two categories of it. There are a lot of things on the energy production side that people are looking at in the oceans, and we have not looked at those because they, number one, there's a little more funding. Anytime I mention that to somebody, they always say there's not enough funding. Nobody thinks there's enough funding for anything that they do, but there are more funding sources available in the US, things like the Department of Energy, for wave energy and offshore wind and all of these kinds of things. So that was one of the reasons that we haven't gone into that. And then another is that those types of projects tend to be very expensive and very complex, and they're a little out of our range for those reasons too. So it has been mostly, like I said, the downstream effects, and then also more recently looking at the negative things, which has been renamed a few times. Started out as geoengineering, and there's another name that was used, but anyway. So looking at some of those things, and we're most interested in things like, and increasingly interested in things like restoring kelp beds, where you have the immediate effect of increasing the ocean health in an area. So because the kelp beds are needed as habitat, but it's also they can be a huge carbon sink, and that gets into a whole another side of things. But we really that's a good fit for us, or things like that have a range of direct benefits, including climate change positive benefits.
Quite interesting. Any other topics we want to talk about?
Yeah, great question. Well, certainly, if people have questions, please post them in the chat for us, or in that Q&A box.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is going to show my bias a little bit, but maybe it would be helpful to talk a little bit about just how you got into this work, or how each of us found the roles of, right, the journey. Do you want to talk about that, Mark? Kind of, how did you land where you were?
Sure. So I mentioned I can't actually build anything. I could build things out of wood, but that doesn't help much on the tech side. I started out in oceanography, working as a chemical oceanographer, but that was so long ago that I can't even really claim it. And I really was more of a grunt worker. Anybody in science knows that that's kind of how you start. I worked for an oceanographer, but that was back in the 90s. I switched gears and got into writing and journalism. So I spent probably the bulk of my career, I spent the bulk of my career working as a journalist, and then also doing communications work for various organizations. And my focus, the ocean, I grew up around the ocean. That's always been my primary career focus. So I wrote a lot about the oceans, and I wrote a lot about tech. And so a few years ago, I shifted into some consulting work. Originally, it was doing consulting work actually for an organization related to the one that I work at now, called the Schmidt Ocean Institute, which operates a large research vessel that they make available to scientists. And I started out doing consulting work for them on the communications side. And then through that work, when the program that I work with now started, I got to know the people that ended up starting this program. And that led to my work. And it's a little weird because I haven't built any of the kinds of technologies that we're funding people. But I also, it's been really helpful that I have a broad view of a lot of different types of technology and a lot of different types of research. Most people, if they actually do the work, they work in a very narrow band of the field. And so I had the privilege of looking much more broadly, so that helps. But anyway, so that's it. I have kind of a weird path into tech, I guess.
And then how did you get this role that you have now?
I started out originally doing communications work, but was getting more and more involved in kind of everything. It was a small program. It was kind of the philanthropic equivalent of a startup, really. We had a small budget, small team, didn't have an office. We were working out of the original director's house, and he left early on. And not for the audience, but Janet and I were talking about this before. I've worked from home for 20 years. So this is not new to me. I've been preparing for this plague. But interestingly, at the time in 2015, when all of this happened, they wouldn't let me take this job as a remote worker because that was a big deal then. And that was fine, but I also wasn't going to move to San Francisco. So, but after about 9 months, they gave in and gave me the job. So, and now everybody works remotely.
There you go. Richard, do you want to share more about your journey?
Yes, I want to share. So it's been quite an interesting journey, and I started off in telecommunication, and my experience in telecom was more of go-to-market strategy, and also helping develop the retail. So I moved from helping in go-to-market strategy to transitioning into being a trainer. So I was based on the experience that I gained, I was able to train other retail sales managers on how they could engage customers as well. Then I moved from there. Then I worked with a company called Solar Kiosk. So Solar Kiosk is a German-based company, and they provide a solar-powered kiosk, virtually a partnership with Coca-Cola. And the objective is to identify some of these kiosks in below the pyramid community where they sell solar products, they sell Coca-Cola products. So there is a freezer in the kiosk where people come to drink chilled water, chilled Coke, and all that. So my responsibility was basically to create a lot of footfall in the hub, that is the kiosk, through adding a lot of, so I added a lot of telecom products such as telecom devices, recharge credit. And from there, based on the experience that I had, I was able to join Power Africa. And I realized that the experience that I had in the past was also relevant in this role, because I was advising companies on how their field and also market strategy, and also helping them to understand. The other aspect has to do with digital finance. I also played a role in digital finance in a telecom company, where I was educating both agents and staff on how mobile money works. So that experience also played a role in my work here in Power Africa as well. So it's quite an interesting journey. And I keep on saying on Terado, most of the students, I tell them that you don't take away your experience. Your experience also play a very vital role in any role that you perform. You just spice it a little bit and add more to it, and you still good to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I will give a 30-second story about how I landed where I am, and then we have a great question from Edward in the chat about skills. But I started my career in environmental consulting. I graduated college with a degree in history. I thought I wanted to teach. Talked to so many unhappy teachers that quickly realized maybe that wasn't the right path for me. Through my network, kind of landed in a consulting role, working with NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, providing support for oil companies in responding to oil spills. So I would do training for command post managers on oil spill response management. And then I got to do some response as well. I was in New Orleans for the Deepwater Horizon spill for many months. I got to work on a handful of other projects here in Washington State, and then wanted to get back to education. So did a master's in education, and then worked at a few universities doing career services and support, managing groups there, and then came to EdTech, and then worked in education technology for SoFi, a finance company, and Springboard, a data analytics boot camp. And now I'm getting to bring both my education passion and background and my environmental passion and background together at Terra. So really, and I found that job through networking. I was in a Slack group, and I was looking for something new, and somebody posted about Terra.do, and I wrote them back and said, hey, this looks like a perfect blend for me. I would love to learn more. And one conversation led to 3 conversations and then a job offer. So here I am. But yeah, happy to address Edward's question. Do either of you feel like you have something to give here? I've got maybe just some general comments, but Richard, I don't know, or looks like we may have lost Richard.
We lost Richard. So I'll jump in briefly. I've been looking at the question and thinking about it, and all I can really come up with is saying that on the ocean side, everything is needed. There really is. It was a point that I wanted to make for the crowd here that, if you have any interest at all in the oceans, there's a really interesting thing happening right now in terms of interest in technology, particularly interested in sustainable technologies, and even more interest in climate change related sustainable technologies. And there's a lot of funding. There's a lot of investors. There are more investors interested in these things than there are companies for them to invest in. And so
that's true.
Any skill you have that can, to any good ideas or any companies, but I don't know. I can't even say one thing. People always need programmers. I don't know. I know it's not helpful, but all of the above is the only thing I can think of.
So there are manufacturing companies integrating softwares like software that you could use for pay as you go. So we have companies like Angaza. Angaza is a fintech company. They develop solutions, and they work with manufacturers of technology, and they integrate those software into solar home system that enables interaction between telecom companies and the distributor of the solution. So for that, you're able to learn how fintech solutions. Now a lot of solar companies are working with financial technology solutions, so that's an area you can look into. And people that have experience in mobile money are really being employed within the renewable energy space, because they understand all those smart solutions when it comes to climate change.
That's a great suggestion. I would say something very similar to Mark. I have a list of over 40 climate tech companies just in my kind of community that have reached out to me in the past 3 or 4 months. All of them are looking for software engineers or data engineers or data scientists. I think so. Really, whatever technical skills you have, you can bring those to bear in a climate organization for sure. The thing that I would recommend that helps communicate that to companies and helps you hone what it is that you want to do and where you want to be is to just do some projects. So to the extent that you can find, networking in communities like Work on Climate or My Climate Journey or Air Miners, or there are a whole bunch of different Slack communities and groups where you'll find like-minded people interested in sustainable development. Where, pitching in there, just giving an introduction, telling a little bit about your skills and why you're there, what you might want to work on. people will then, bring you their challenges or their opportunities, and you can pitch ideas there and find groups of people to work on, start working on some of those projects. Certainly no shortage of those opportunities. I'd say do as much of that as you can. Maybe we conclude with posting, people are welcome to get in touch with me. I'm available on LinkedIn, and you can find me at tara.do. I'll post the website for Tara in the chat, and maybe my LinkedIn profile. And anything else you guys want to conclude with?
I would just add too, I'm more than happy to talk with folks if you have any questions or want to talk about any of this stuff. And I am also adding my contact information.
Doing that too. I should have copied and pasted it before. Now I have to. There we go. All right. Yeah. Well, thanks. Thanks to you both. It's been a pleasure to get to chat. None of us really, I don't think, knew each other before this session. So great to chat with you all. It's so glad that we had some great participants as well.
Yeah, great talking with you all.
Likewise.
Great.
All right.
Connect.
Take care, everyone, and hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.